Okay, in this video we're going to talk about how to create an estimate and what it means in QuickBooks. So an estimate, if you don't see it on your home screen here, you have to go in and enable them. So in your preferences, you can go to Jobs and Estimates and then do create estimates. It's also important to note if you do progress invoicing, meaning do we do partial billing along the along the project. So let's say we have 100 hours estimated of roofing work for a customer. Are we going to bill them at 25 hours and then 25 hours and then 25 hours type of thing? So are we going to do invoicing in progress, or are we just going to bill them the whole 100 hours either up front or at the end type of thing? Okay, so do you do progress invoicing? Why that's important is it just enables different columns on your templates. Okay. All right, so I come in to create an estimate, and let me go ahead and expand this up a little bit here. So on the estimate itself, you can add additional fields. We can go in and format it and add additional fields. When we're dealing with an estimate, it's essentially a budget for a job, right? Because it doesn't affect anything when it comes to accounting. It doesn't affect our books at all. It does drive reports though, right? Because we have our estimates versus actual reports, etc. We have some committed cost reports which are driven off of estimates as well. So it's essentially a budget for a customer or a job. Okay. Now, of course, in QuickBooks, we do actually have budgets that you can set up for a customer or a job, but this is going to be driven at the general ledger account level, whereas an estimate is going to be driven at the task level, right? So which services do we have, which inventory parts do we have, etc. Okay. All right, so creating an estimate. So for course, we're first going to start with the customer or job. Now, of course, now that we're in 2017, you can start typing Shane, SH, and it takes me to Shane Hamby, even though it starts with Hamby, right? Because that's a new feature now. Or construction. I can see everything that starts with construction. So that's pretty exciting here. So I'm going to go ahead and choose a construction and make it a 2 so that I can just add an extra job in here. Of course, the class features, all those things we go over in other videos, the estimate number, etc. So down below here, at the item level, we're going to go ahead and start to add in our items. Now, starting a couple years ago, they did add in Find and Select. Find and Select is a very, very helpful field when it comes to creating some of these standard estimates. So if this is a job that you do all the time, as an example, what we like to do is we actually like to set up some custom fields for jobs or for items and say, these items are standard in a bathroom rebuild, or these items are standard in a kitchen remodel, right? Because what I can do is I can search. So let's say framing. Whoops, if I can spell. Framing, and notice it searches through everything in the item name, in the description, or if I had a custom field as well, and I can easily mass add these to my estimate. So something to consider there. Okay, so I have that Find and Select. Also, again, in the items, I could have just started typing framing, right? Even though it's not starting with framing anymore, it'll still pull that up for me because it's in the item name somewhere. It starts in the item name somewhere. So on the estimate here, you have a couple of things. So if we are using estimates to just quote customers, meaning you're just doing inventory parts, you don't need all of these other fields necessarily, right? You don't need to know the estimated cost of these and the markup and then the revenue type of thing. But if you are using this in kind of a service industry, those are important. They can be important, especially when you're a general contractor where you outsource some of these items, like the wall framing, the roof framing. Maybe you don't do those with people from your staff, and you need to create purchase orders to subcontractors to do that kind of work. So then it's really important that we have our estimated costs in here as well. So in building this budget, so I'm going to say quantity, right? We expect there to be 50 hours of floor framing. We expect the cost, this is the estimated cost, to be $20 an hour. We always do a 50% markup. Okay, so it comes out to $1,500. Now, one of the things that's really nice here too, so you can choose to have these printed or not printed, right? So maybe you don't want to show your customer your markup percentages in here, so you don't have to print those additional columns. But for some customers who we have, they do, when they provide the quote, right, they do show their costs on the quote, and they show that they get a 20% markup, and then that's it, right? So in some government jobs or big contract jobs, they do show that they're just taking a fixed markup. So sometimes you do want to show them. All right, so I'm going to come down here and say we have 65 at $15 an hour and 50% markup. And then again down here, 100 hours at $25 an hour, and we'll say 75% markup on this one. Okay. So then down below at the bottom, it's really nice. It gives us a subtotal, right? So the cost of this job, we expect it to cost $4,475. We expect to make $2,862.50. So the total that's going to be charged to the customer is $7,337.50. So what this does again, so I haven't done anything yet with it because I haven't saved it. So what this does again is I save the estimate. Once I save this estimate now, I can go in and look at my estimate versus actual detail, okay, for construction 2. And notice what it's done is it's built my outline for this project, right? So I have in here my estimated costs, I have in here my estimated revenues, but I don't have any actuals yet. So then as we go through and we start to put in our actual costs, we have labor costs associated because we're running payroll through QuickBooks, all of that fun stuff, then it's filling in our budget for this job basically. Okay. Now if we're doing progress invoicing, so I'm going to go ahead and say save. If we're doing progress invoicing, when we go to create an invoice from the estimate, we do have the ability to create it for 100%, create it for just a certain percentage of the estimate. You can say 50% as an example, we're billing, or you can do different amounts. So right now it's showing me all the grayed out fields, right? Estimated quantities 50, 65, 100. I'm going to bill out for 25 here. I'm going to bill for 30 here, and I'm going to bill for 0 here, right? So what it's going to do is behind the scenes, I have this invoice now, okay? So behind the scenes, it's going to keep track for me how much I have invoiced on this particular job. So it's going to keep progress, right, on how much I've invoiced and how much is left to invoice for this particular job. Okay. All right. So that is how to create an estimate in QuickBooks.